Hey, Dragon Crew, welcome back. If you're new here, we've been deep diving into Spyro lore, the characters, the stories, and every hidden detail that makes this little purple dragon one of the most charming heroes in gaming. Today, we're doing something different, and honestly, something I've wanted to do for a while. We're not just ranking the original PlayStation trilogy or comparing it to the reignited versions, we're talking about what it actually feels like to play these games. If you've never touched the originals before, don't worry. I'll break everything down like you're picking up the controller for the first time. And if you're a longtime fan, I'm giving honest 1 to 10 ratings across the things that actually matter: controls, level design, combat, exploration, presentation, and that special one more gem feeling. These are my real takes after countless playthroughs of both the PS1 originals and the reignited trilogy. No nostalgia goggles, no fluff, just what each game gets right where it stumbles and who it's actually perfect for. So charge up that flame breath, spread those wings, and let's find out which original Spyro game still feels the best to play in 2026. All visuals in this video are original AI-generated art inspired by the series. Quick primer for newcomers. Before we get into each game, here's the simplest way to understand what you're stepping into. These are 3D platformers, games where you control a character moving through a fully three-dimensional world. You run, jump between platforms, fight enemies, and collect items. Spyro's core moves are charging with his horns to smash through enemies and objects, breathing short-range fire, and gliding after you jump. Sparks the Dragonfly acts as your health bar. He takes damage for you and changes color as he weakens. The games are built around colorful hub worlds that connect to individual levels, and the main loop is exploring, collecting gems, and completing objectives while enjoying how good it feels to move Spyro around. Spyro the Dragon, 1998. The Foundation. This is where the series began. Nasty Nork has turned the adult dragons into crystal statues and transformed their gems into monsters. Only young Spyro escaped the spell, so it's up to him and Sparks to free the dragons, recover the gems, and defeat Nasty. What it actually feels like to play, it feels pure and adventurous with real weight behind the movement. Charging has satisfying momentum, and gliding across large gaps is genuinely exciting once you learn the timing. The low-poly worlds have a bright storybook charm that still works today. It's not the most refined game in the trilogy, but it has this cohesive, everything just works together quality that many early 3D platformers were still figuring out. Detailed ratings. Controls and platforming gets an 8.3 out of 10. The glide and charge feel great once you get used to them, and the momentum-based movement is fun, but it doesn't have the razor-sharp precision or the later hover ability that makes platforming smoother in the sequels. Combat sits at 7.6 out of 10. Charging and flaming feel punchy and have simple but effective rules against different enemy types. It's satisfying for what it is, but it never goes particularly deep. Level design and exploration earns a 7.8 out of 10. The hubs do a good job encouraging you to explore, and the draw distance was impressive for PlayStation 1 hardware. However, some levels start repeating similar ideas and layouts toward the back half of the game. Story and characters lands at 6.8 out of 10. The premise is simple and charming, and Nasty Nork makes for a fun, over-the-top villain, but there isn't much depth or memorable supporting moments compared to what comes later. Presentation gets a strong 8.9 out of 10. The colorful, low-poly art direction still holds up in a stylized way, and Stuart Copeland's soundtrack is genuinely iconic. It perfectly captures that adventurous, slightly mischievous tone. Overall feel, 8.1 out of 10. What it gets right: the pure joy of movement and exploration. It feels like the exact game Insomniac wanted to make. Simple, colorful, and fun to control from the first minute. Where it stumbles, it's the roughest around the edges. Some level design ideas repeat, and the bosses are pretty basic. Who it's perfect for? People who want the most focused, back-to-basics Spyro experience. Excellent if you like shorter campaigns or you want to experience the series in order and see how it evolved. Spyro 2. Ripto's Rage, 1999. The sweet spot. Spyro is pulled into the world of Avalar and has to stop an evil wizard named Ripto. This game adds more personality, better bosses, and a wider variety of challenges while keeping everything that made the first game fun. What it actually feels like to play. This is the one that feels the most complete and satisfying. The controls are noticeably tighter, especially charging, and the new hover ability at the end of your glide makes platforming feel much more precise and forgiving. The worlds have stronger personality and distinct identities. It still gives you freedom to explore, but it also gives you clearer goals and better reasons to keep going. The minigames and speedways add nice variety without ever taking over the core experience. Detailed ratings. Controls and platforming gets a high 9.2 out of 10. The hover upgrade alone makes a massive difference, and charging feels tighter and more responsive. This is some of the best feeling 3D platforming of the entire late 90s era. Combat earns an 8.4 out of 10. The enemy variety is better, and the boss fights are a big step up. They actually change tactics and feel like proper encounters instead of simple damage sponges. Level design and exploration scores a 9.1 out of 10. The hubs are more cohesive and memorable, and the levels have better variety in layout and objectives. It strikes an excellent balance between open exploration and directed goals. Story and characters lands at 8.3 out of 10. Ripto is a memorable and funny villain, and the supporting cast plus the extra dialogue give Avalar a lot more life and personality than the first game. Presentation gets an 8.7 out of 10. The visuals are refined and the audio work is even stronger than the first game. Overall feel 9.0 out of 10. What it gets right, almost everything. It takes the foundation of the first game and polishes it while adding just enough new mechanics and variety to feel fresh without losing focus. The just one more orb feeling is very strong here. Where it stumbles, very little. Some players at the time felt it was easier than the first game, but that accessibility is actually one of its strengths for most people. Who it's perfect for? Most players. This is the one I'd recommend as the best starting point if someone only wants to play a single game from the original trilogy. It's the clearest high point of the series. Now let's get into Spyro, Year of the Dragon, 2000, the ambitious finale. The sorceress has stolen a large number of dragon eggs, and Spyro has to retrieve them. This is the biggest and most varied entry. More levels, more minigames, and 4 new playable characters with completely different movesets. What it actually feels like to play. It feels like the most ambitious of the 3. The core Spyro gameplay is still excellent and builds on the improvements from Ripto's Rage, but now you regularly switch to different characters with their own abilities. Some of those new playstyles are genuinely fun and fresh. The levels are larger on average, and there's more story and cutscenes than before. Because it tries to do so much, it can occasionally feel a little less focused than the second game. Detailed ratings. Controls and platforming gets an 8.6 out of 10. The base movement is still excellent, and the new characters bring their own satisfying, if very different, movement and combat feel. Combat scores an 8.1 out of 10. There's more variety thanks to the new playable characters and enemy types, though it doesn't quite reach the same focused satisfaction as the second game's bosses. Level design and exploration earns an 8.2 out of 10. The levels are bigger and more creative in places, but the game sometimes feels spread out or padded compared to the tighter, more cohesive design of Ripto's Rage. Story and characters lands at 7.7 out of 10. The new cast adds personality and the story has more cutscenes, but Ripto remains the more memorable villain for many players. Presentation gets an 8.6 out of 10. Some of the best visuals and music of the entire trilogy are here. Overall feel, 8.4 out of 10. What it gets right, the sheer amount of ideas and content. Several of the new character levels and minigames are genuine highlights, and it never feels like the developers were phoning it in. Where it stumbles, it tries to be a lot of things at once. The variety is cool, but it sometimes dilutes that pure playing as Spyro feeling that the first 2 games deliver so strongly. Who it's perfect for? Players who want the longest experience and the most gameplay variety. Great if you enjoy switching up playstyles, or you want to see Insomniac throwing a ton of new ideas at the wall. Let's get to it. My overall verdict. If I had to rank the original trilogy purely on how good they feel to play in 2026, Spyro 2. Ripto's Rage takes the top spot with a 9.0 overall. It's the clearest high point. Best balance of controls, level design, personality, and fun. Year of the Dragon comes in second at 8.4 overall. It's ambitious and packed with content, even if it spreads itself a bit thin at times. Spyro the Dragon finishes at 8.1 overall. It's still very charming and has that pure foundational magic, but it's the roughest and least refined of the three. All three are worth your time if you enjoy classic 3D platformers. They hold up remarkably well because the core feeling of controlling Spyro, charging, gliding, and that satisfying one more gem loop is just that good. If you're new and want the single best experience, start with Ripto's Rage. If you want the full journey and to appreciate how the series evolved, play them in order. So there you have it. My honest, detailed breakdown of exactly what each game in the original PlayStation Trilogy feels like to play, with the scores to back it up. Which one are you most curious to try or revisit? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this kind of no-fluff, detailed look at classic games, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. We've got plenty more Spyro content coming soon. Until then, keep that flame burning, Dragon Crew. I'll see you in the next one.